Trae Young just dropped 49 and 11 in game 1 versus the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals, and at this point with this performance, I can't continue to go along without actually talking about him as an individual on this channel. Because amongst the players who have broken out in this year's playoffs, and there has been a pretty long list of those guys, Trae Young has managed to find himself at the top of that list. He is the one who stands out the most by far. Not only does he stand out from the eye test, which he very much stands out from, but he also stands out from a statistical standpoint, not just because his stats are amazing, but they are quite literally historic. So let's talk about the history that Trae Young is in the process of making. Before I continue on with this video, about half of the people who watch these videos are not subscribed, so if you fall into that 50%, then please subscribe. I'm trying to hit 200k on this channel by the end of the year, so it'd be much appreciated. Also, drop a like on this video, only takes 1 second, it makes a massive difference. And go subscribe over to my second channel where I have been doing post-game recaps for every playoff game, every conference finals game now that we've gotten there. My reaction to Trae and his amazing performance in game 1 is over on that channel right now. Trae Young has scored or assisted on more points in his first 10 playoff games than any other player has in their first 10 playoff games in league history. That's a pretty big fucking deal. Especially being that he is doing this in his first 10 playoff games in his first year. Most people and most stars in their first year tend to get knocked out in round 1, but Trae has managed to find his way all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's also the first player in league history, not the first like 22-year-old or whatever the fuck. He is the first player to ever have 45 points plus and 10 assists plus in a conference finals game. Man, his first conference finals game of his career as a 22-year-old leading this Atlanta Hawks team, and he does that. He's just straight up doing historic shit right now. He is averaging 30 points and 10 assists on 56% true shooting, which is just insanity. And the Hawks have been winning along the way. They beat the New York Knicks in the first round, who were pretty heavily favored against them. They were most people's pick to win that series, even mine, even though it was by a slim margin. I expected the Knicks to win that one in 7. However, they managed to lose in 5 because Trae just dominated them. Then they play the Philadelphia 76ers, a team believed to be a contender. Meanwhile, the Hawks are not believed to be a contender, and yet the Hawks managed to win that one in a 7-game series. A good bit because the Sixers ended up collapsing, but still, Trae Young once again tore apart that team, a team that had Ben Simmons defending him for a good chunk of it, who is one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, who also happens to be 6'10". So he stared down that incredible defense and tore them apart as a 6'1", 22-year-old guard in a series that not only was he not favored in, it was pretty much unanimous that the Sixers were going to win this series. So once again, mind-boggling. Then he goes into the Milwaukee Stadium, where I can tell you right now firsthand, because I went to game 4 versus the Nets in person, that arena has so much energy against what Trae is trying to do. He goes and drops 49 and 11 and wins game 1. Not that Trae Young hasn't been made to be used to hostile environments like he was versus the Knicks and the Sixers, because both of those fan bases are filled with terrible people, but he was still... It's still ridiculous that he did what he did. Like, we can't just ignore this because we've seen him do it before. It continues to be insanity. This right now is the league Cinderella story. I don't think they're going to make the finals. I still have the Bucks winning that series, but it's still a Cinderella story that they have gotten this far. This is very much a 2020 Miami Heat-esque run. Hopefully they don't burn out next year and have a 2021 Heat-esque run, but right now things are looking great. And while there have been role players who have contributed to this run, very good role players at that, at the end of the day, they are role players. They are damn good ones. Danilo Gallinari, John Collins, Clint Capella, Lou Williams, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Kevin or Kevon Huerter. They have been amazing for this team outside of just Trae Young. But at the end of the day, Those are just role players. They are great role players, but Trae Young is the lone star player on this team. It is him and him alone who is the star player and the driving force and engine of this roster. So Trae, as the lone star on a well-constructed but still not star-studded squad, has managed to topple two teams favored against him, one extremely favored against him, and now he's taken game one versus the Bucks. This is not normal. This is not something that you should expect. This is not something that anyone would have believed going into this season, including myself, who was really high on this Hawks team going into the year. I think in my season prediction, I had them as like the 6th seed, somewhere in that area, and they've been, I think they were the 5th seed, but they have been even better than that, especially in the playoffs. They start off the year terrible, get a coaching change with Nate McMillan, and suddenly this roster is pretty much flawless. Like, of course, they could have better talent, but they are getting the most out of what they have and then some, and that's because of Nate McMillan, but also because Trae Young has stepped up immensely. There are a lot of players who we're going to have to reevaluate their position in the NBA after this playoffs, and that's not abnormal by any means. That's pretty much what happens after every playoff. Some players fall, some players go higher. It is what it is. However, it really feels like this year that has been pushed to an extreme, because Trae Young, you could convince me right now that he is a top 13 to 15 player in the league right now, and I believe I had him at like 25 previous. So he has taken a big leap. Devin Booker has taken a big leap. There is just so much to talk about in terms of where players rank, and Trae Young right now is at the top of the list of priority in terms of actually figuring out where he ranks, though I will wait until the end of the playoffs before I make a new top 50 list to actually explore that. But he's definitely a couple of spots higher and should be for everybody's list. I do have to say I'm glad to see this come to fruition, because while I obviously doubted Trae Young going into the NBA because of that infamous tweet, pretty much as soon as he broke out in the second half of his rookie year, I was all in on the Trae Young train, and I believed, and obviously still believe, that he can be a superstar caliber player, and a lot of people said I was pushing it with that one just because, hey, he's an undersized guard who can't play defense. Well, look at what he has done now. I think it's pretty fucking clear that Trae Young can be a superstar player in this league, and he's well on his way towards being that if he hasn't acted like that in this year's playoffs. I mean, 30-11 on good efficiency, taking your team to the conference finals when you were heavily not favored in your direction. That sounds like some superstar shit to me. By the way, let's real quick talk about the idea that Trae Young is a villain, because it really pisses me off. First round, the Knicks, their fans are assholes. Like, I'm sorry if you're a nice Knicks fan, but come on. Like, New York is known for being full of dicks. That's like part of their personality trait. Even more so in the case of Philadelphia. Like, Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, my ass. Like, it's such an aggressive and angry place. And hey, it's a reputation, it's an identity. Go with it if you want. I'm an asshole and I own it. But to put Trae Young in that environment with a bunch of asshole fans where he is the lone star, and also you can kind of make fun of him because he's kind of goofy sometimes and his hair is thinning a little bit, you're gonna see that toxic shit happen regardless of what the actual player is. And ironically, Milwaukee, which I can tell you is a great environment from being there, especially after the game, because the whole city was fucking celebrating when they won game 4. It was absolutely an amazing, and I hate the overuse of this word, but an amazing vibe. You didn't see that same shit versus Milwaukee in game 1, and Trae was tearing their team a new asshole. So the idea that Trae is a villain is stupid. And if you want to say it's because of the foul baiting thing, that is so incredibly selective, because nobody views Jimmy Butler as the villain of the league. Nobody views Joel Embiid as the villain of the league. Nobody views Luka Doncic as the villain of the league. But Trae Young and James Harden, I guess they are. It's a very stupid, selective mindset that really annoys me. Trae Young is not a villain. He is just fucking awesome. I don't watch Trae Young kill it and go, oh man, I hate that guy. No, I appreciate this shit, and you should too. We need to appreciate what Trae Young is doing, because this is by no means normal, and I don't want it to be treated as such. 30-11 all the way to a conference finals. That is fucking amazing. Where you have not been favored in either series. That's just insane. Like, give him credit for that. I was high on Trae and this Hawks team going into this year, but I don't think I or anyone expected that out of this team. So just give them their flowers or their roses, whatever the fuck that expression is. You know what I mean. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, but that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for NBA content like this, and keep the outro music.